Season 3 of The Mandalorian starts off with one of the most boring episodes I have seen in a while. Nothing of substance happens, and Mando is sent on several fetch quests which are only here as filler and to pad out the runtime of this season. Not only is this episode incredibly dull, it also undoes everything the last season established. The IG-88 knockoff droid who died is now alive again. Baby Yoda, who was given away at the end of season 2 to the Jedi, is now back, and Bo-Katan was going to retake Mandalore with her army, but now sits in a castle and has given up on doing so. Another terrible part of season 3 is that you have to watch the Book of Boba Fett just to understand what is happening. It also happens to be one of the worst Star Wars products that Disney has shit out, and makes watching this season even worse as it requires bad homework to do so. Now, Disney has made a huge mistake in not releasing episode 1 and 2 together, as this episode is so unremarkable and dull that it wouldn't surprise me if people decided not to continue the season, considering how fuck all happens. This show has no good characters to be invested in, The Mandalorian is a blank slate, and Baby Yoda is nothing more than a gimmick. The only other person I remember is Grief Karga, and that's because he's played by Carl Weathers, which just goes to show that The Mandalorian is completely aimless and has absolutely no idea what to do with its characters. I have no idea how the show will maintain its audience going forward, as it has no more cameos from beloved characters to exploit. They have already had 2 cameos from Luke Skywalker, and nobody has mentioned the second one. Things have gotten so bad for Lucasfilm that they are now bringing out sequel trilogy characters to exploit, as this episode tries to use Babu Frick to entice the audience, but I believe they put him in purely so that those shill react channels can pretend to give a shit about Star Wars once again.
What are you, gay?
Now let's break down how a 35-minute show can have almost no plot. Episode 1 starts off with female blacksmith forging some Beskar armor, and we can see that she clearly has no idea how to forge metal, as anybody who watched Forged in Fire would know that the metal is nowhere near hot enough to begin working with and would fracture. Now, can anyone tell me how Beskar is somehow able to block lightsabers, but is somehow melted by a small flame?
That doesn't make any sense!
So the female blacksmith has made a helmet for a ceremony, a helmet that clearly doesn't fit the boy it's meant to be put on, as the camera cuts away to a new angle and he is wearing a helmet that actually fits. Now, in the Book of Boba Fett, this cult only had 2 members as they kicked Mando out. I thought that new members were only brought in as children as they needed years of training to join, but fuck that, she must have put out a help wanted sign. Now there's some confusion on what the rules are for the Mandalorians taking off their helmets. Luckily for us though, the female blacksmith finally gives us an answer.
From this moment on, I shall never remove my helmet.
So that's it, none of these people must ever take off their helmets. They must sleep, bathe and fuck with their helmets on.
I'd say that sounds pretty retarded.
And what exactly happens to the boy when he grows up? Does his helmet grow with him, or does his skull get crushed by the helmet? Maybe that's why every Mandalorian in this cult is a complete fucking idiot. The ceremony is then interrupted by a giant crocodile that jumps out of the nearby water, which must suddenly go incredibly deep, as only a few feet away they are standing in it. Just how exactly does nobody see this giant beast right next to them in the clear water? Well, they didn't, and the Mandalorians tried to attack it, but they wait until several of them are dead before deciding to use their jetpacks. We see that blasters and explosives don't work, so with no way to hurt it, what do? Well, they just keep shooting at it instead of, I don't know, running away. And these people are supposed to be genius warriors. So they end up getting saved by Deus Ex Mando, who goes on to meet the female blacksmith, and all they do is just repeat what happened in the Book of Boba Fett.
You are no longer Mandalorian.
Now, does anybody remember season 2 where Mando threatened Timothy Olyphant because he was wearing Mandalorian armor and has no right to, as he is not a Mandalorian? So by the same logic, shouldn't Mando also remove his armor as well, as he is no longer Mandalorian?
Yes, that's true.
But I guess he gets to keep his. She goes on to tell him that to redeem himself, he must take a bath in the waters of Mandalore, but nobody can get there as the planet is supposed to be irradiated. So in order to do so, he must get a droid to help him. He heads to Navarro, and on the way we can see the dumb fucking space whales that can somehow travel faster than light, which were introduced in that dogshit Rebels TV show, or better known as Dave Filoni's Wet Dream. He is like one of those parasitic facehuggers impregnating the host with his shit ideas and slowly killing it from the inside. Mando arrives and we can see that the city is completely different since the last time we saw it. Apollo Creed explains that he somehow turned this shithole located in the middle of nowhere and outside New Republic territory into a travelling hub. Travelling where exactly, I don't know. It's the Outer Rim. There is nothing here other than backwater shitholes like Tatooine. Why exactly would anybody want to travel out here? Now, Apollo wants Mando to help him stop some local pirates, as he seems to be the only security in Navarro. These pirates have to be on a spectrum, because despite being told repeatedly that it's a school, they still think it's a bar and try to drink in it.
Come, join us for a drink.
This is a school.
Now, these pirates are supposed to be intimidating, but they can't even get past a shitty C-3PO knockoff that won't let them inside.
Pathetic.
They have a standoff with Mando and Apollo killing all of them except for Vane. Wow, a pirate called Vane, how original. Now, they leave him alive as a warning because pirates never take revenge, even though he works for a much bigger pirate boss.
That sounds like a good idea.
Apollo offers Mando to become marshal of the town because Gina Carano has left.
She was recruited by Special Forces.
And that is all we are going to be hearing about that. One throwaway sentence and she's gone. Now, Mando doesn't accept the offer, and I'm left thinking, why not? Why exactly does he want to be a Mandalorian? Fuck, why would anyone? They are supposed to have this elite warrior culture like the Klingons do, and were so scared they never came out of hiding even after the Empire fell. Not only that, they have to live by a rule system that must have been created by a complete fuckwit, as the rules they live by are not only stupid, they are also impractical, and to top it all off, they are shit warriors that despite wearing literal plot armor, still get beaten by useless stormtroopers, which has to make them the most useless warriors in the galaxy. Now, didn't Baby Yoda refuse to become a Jedi so he could be with Mando? Why doesn't Mando give up being a Mandalorian and stay in Navarro with Baby Yoda? This would give their relationship some weight, as they both had to sacrifice something to be with each other. We then see a statue made up of the parts of IG-88 as somehow standing in a lava pit and blowing himself up left the most vital parts of him intact. So preserved were these parts that Mando is able to repair him pretty easily, all except his programming, which is fucked, as he now wants to kill Baby Yoda. He crawls across the floor in a Terminator 1 reference, and Mando's blasters don't seem to work on it, but somehow dropping a metal bust on his head breaks him.
That's completely idiotic.
Well, they need an expert to fix the droid. Luckily for them though, Apollo knows Babu Frick, and he happens to be in the city.
Oh, how convenient!
It is here we have that trademark Marvel humour where Apollo Creed just repeats everything Babu Frick says over and over again, because it's not just enough to tell a joke. No, you must drag that joke out long enough until it is completely dead and buried. So Babu sends him on yet another fetch quest, as he must get a memory card for the droid. This is the third fetch quest he is on. He was sent to fetch some water from Mandalore, but to do so he was sent out to get a droid, and now to have that droid he must get a memory card. This is only a 35-minute episode, and he has already been sent on 3 side missions. Mando heads out and is ambushed by pirates, who for some reason do not shoot him and instead let him know he is about to be attacked. Not only that, when he enters a nearby asteroid field, 3 more ships were waiting inside for him. Why were they waiting here? Well, they must have read the plot and knew he would do this. What's even worse is that he is ambushed by a cruiser and just light speeds past them like they are nothing, because these pirates are a joke. Mando heads to a planet and lands on a Mandalorian castle. Well, it's not really a castle, but just one very large throne room, which makes you wonder what was the purpose of this being built, and why are there no other ruins in the area? It kind of feels like it was built for this scene alone and has no actual history. There is no fucking way Bo-Katan was just sitting like this in a full suit of armor. She must have posed herself for Mando's arrival, trying to look cool.
Welcome to my humble chamber.
She reveals that without the Darksaber, her army has left her. Now, if your army leaves because of that, they were never loyal in the first place. Mando asks her where the special water is, and she says that he will never make it as Mandalore is irradiated, which begs the question, just how exactly was she going to retake Mandalore if nobody can set foot on it?
I don't know.
So Mando decides to go for himself, as everybody seems to be talking about it secondhand, and that's the end of episode 1.
It's a piece of shit.
This episode not only doesn't move the plot forward, but actually moves it backwards, as it has to reset everything that happened in the last 2 seasons. The only thing this episode has achieved is wasting away the audience's finite time on this earth. For as long as it remains in the greedy hands of that piece of shit company that is run by an empty-headed fuck, it is never going to be good ever again.